I was in the middle of a critical client presentation at our marketing firm in Denver when my vision blurred and my chest tightened like someone was standing on it. The room tilted sideways. Voices became distant echoes, and then I was on the floor with 20 colleagues and clients staring down at me. Paramedics rushed me to the hospital. While hooked to monitors in the emergency room, nurses asked for emergency contacts. I gave them my parents' numbers, Thomas and Patricia, and my sister Emma's. Hours passed. No one came. A nurse showed me Emma's Instagram post. My entire family at a lake house, smiling. Caption: Family Day, without the drama. My heart broke worse than whatever brought me here. When I fully woke in the intensive care unit, the steady beeping of the heart monitor was the only sound keeping me company. Dr. Carson, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes that had probably seen too much, pulled up a chair beside my bed. She explained that I had experienced a cardiac event triggered by extreme stress combined with an undiagnosed heart condition I never knew I had. My body had been sending warning signs for months, probably, but I had been too busy grinding away at work to notice. She said I needed to stay hospitalized for at least 5 days for monitoring and a battery of tests to determine the extent of the damage. 5 days. 5 days lying in a hospital bed, and still no word from my family. I checked my phone with shaking hands. 0 calls from my parents. 0 texts. But Emma had been busy. She had posted 3 more photos from their family day at the lake. There was my mother, Patricia, holding a glass of wine and laughing. My father, Thomas, grilling steaks on what looked like an expensive lakeside deck. Emma herself in a bikini, posing on a dock with the sunset behind her. The photos were perfect, filtered to golden perfection, each one radiating joy and togetherness. I scrolled through the comments, each one a small knife to my chest. Aunts and cousins and family friends, all congratulating them on their peaceful family time. My Aunt Carol wrote, "You all look so happy and relaxed." Uncle Frank commented, "Finally getting some quality time together." And then I saw my mother's comment on the main post, the one that made my stomach turn. Finally a drama. Free day with my real family. Real family. As if I was not real. As if I was some kind of phantom or burden they had finally shed. I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting them to keep from crying. 23 tiles across, 47 down, 1,081 tiles total, each one a small square of white nothingness, just like the space where my family's love should have been. The door opened and Julie walked in. Julie worked in the cubicle next to mine, a sharp woman in her early 30s with red hair she wore in a practical ponytail and a wit that could cut through any corporate nonsense. She carried my laptop bag and phone charger, her face a mixture of concern and barely suppressed anger. "Alexander," she said, setting the bags down and pulling up the chair Dr. Carson had vacated. "How are you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a truck." I managed a weak smile. "Thanks for bringing my stuff." "Of course." She glanced around the empty room, at the single chair, the lack of flowers or cards or any sign that anyone else had visited. "Where's your family?" I gestured weakly at my phone. Living their best life, apparently. Julie picked up my phone, and I watched her face change as she scrolled through Emma's Instagram. Her jaw tightened. Her eyes went cold. When she looked back at me, I saw something I had not expected. Fury on my behalf. "They knew you were here," she said. It was not a question. The hospital called them. All of them. Multiple times. And they went to a lake house instead. "Looks like it." Julie set the phone down carefully, as if afraid she might throw it. "What happened between you all? I mean, I know it's none of my business, but this is beyond cold." I took a deep breath, wincing as my chest protested. I've always been the difficult one, according to them. The troublemaker. I questioned things, like how they treated my younger brother Marcus. "I didn't know you had a brother." Most people don't. My parents don't exactly advertise him. Marcus is 23, and he's on the autism spectrum. High support needs. He lives with them still, and I always tried to defend him when they showed frustration with him. They never had patience for his needs. Julie leaned forward, listening intently. 6 months ago we had Thanksgiving at their place. Big family gathering. Marcus got overwhelmed by all the noise and people and had a meltdown. Nothing violent, just crying and rocking and needing space. My father pulled me aside and called Marcus embarrassing, said it in front of our cousins, called his own son an embarrassment. Jesus, Julie whispered. I confronted him right there. Told him that was unacceptable, that Marcus was not something to be ashamed of. My mother jumped in, defending Thomas, saying I was always too sensitive and always causing scenes. Emma sided with them completely, said I always cause problems and make everything about me. The whole thing exploded. I left early, and since then, the family group chat has gone completely silent. For me, anyway. What do you mean? I mean they created a new group chat without me. I found out when I overheard Emma on a call talking about what Dad said in the chat about something that had happened that week. They cut me out and kept going like I never existed. Julie's hand found mine and squeezed it gently. I'm so sorry. My phone buzzed. I glanced at it and felt ice flood my veins. A text from Aunt Carol. Your mother told everyone you're on a wellness retreat and asked us not to contact you. What's really going on? I showed the text to Julie. Her eyes widened. They're lying to your extended family, she said slowly. They're actively covering up the fact that you're in the hospital. To maintain their image, I said, the realization settling over me like a heavy blanket. Can't have people knowing their son had a medical emergency, and they chose a lake house instead. Better to say I'm on some self-care retreat, probably making it sound like I'm flaky or unstable. That's sick, Alexander. That's genuinely sick. I did not disagree. I looked back at the ceiling tiles, 1,081 white squares, and tried to find some pattern in them that made sense, because nothing else did. By day 3 in the hospital, I was feeling physically stronger. The medications were working, my heart rhythm had stabilized, and Dr. Carson was cautiously optimistic about my recovery. But then, the hospital billing department arrived, and everything got so much worse. The billing coordinator was a tired-looking man named Harold, who carried a tablet and wore an expression that said he had delivered bad news many times before, and hated every second of it. He sat down and showed me a screen full of red text and denied claims. Mr. Alexander, I'm afraid your insurance claim has been denied. I blinked at him. That doesn't make sense. I have good coverage through my employer. I've checked before. I'm covered. Harold's expression grew more uncomfortable. According to our system, your employer-sponsored insurance was canceled 2 weeks ago. The room seemed to tilt again, just like it had before I collapsed. That's impossible. I never canceled anything. I never received any notification. Let me pull up the documentation. Harold tapped on his tablet, then turned it to show me. There it was, in black and white. Policy termination dated 14 days ago. It says here the cancellation was initiated by the policyholder. That's you. But I didn't do that. I never did that. Harold looked genuinely sympathetic now. I believe you, but this is what our system shows. You'll need to contact your HR department to sort this out. In the meantime, the balance for your stay so far is $47,000, and it's climbing every day you're here. $47,000. I felt like I might have another cardiac event right there. As soon as Harold left, I grabbed my laptop and checked my work email, fingers trembling on the keyboard. I found the notification buried in my spam folder. Insurance cancellation due to employment termination. My employment termination. I called HR immediately. The director, a woman named Sandra, who had always been professional and kind, answered with a tone that was decidedly less warm than usual. Alexander, I'm surprised to hear from you. We thought you were dealing with your situation. What situation? Sandra, what's going on? Why was my insurance canceled? There was a long pause. Your father called us 2 weeks ago. He said he was you, or rather, he said he was calling on your behalf because you were having a mental health crisis and needed to quit immediately. My blood turned to ice water. My father did what? He knew your employee ID number, your date of birth, details about your position. We had no reason to doubt him. He said you were checking into a facility and wouldn't be able to give notice yourself. We processed your termination as a compassionate resignation. I'm so sorry, Alexander. But if this wasn't legitimate, You need to understand we were trying to be understanding of what we thought was a mental health emergency. Sandra, I never quit. I never had any intention of quitting. My father committed fraud. Another long pause. Oh God. Alexander, I'm so sorry. But the position has been filled. We hired your replacement last week. He started Monday. The room was spinning again. I've been unemployed for 2 weeks and didn't even know it. If this was fraud, you need to file a police report. We'll cooperate fully with any investigation, but I can't just reinstate you. The budget has been allocated. I'm truly sorry. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at nothing, trying to process what I had just learned. My father had impersonated me to get me fired. My insurance was gone. I had a hospital bill that could bankrupt me, and I had no job to pay it. I tried calling Thomas. Straight to voicemail. I tried Patricia. She answered on the 4th ring, sounding annoyed. What is it, Alexander? We're in the middle of dinner. You need to tell me what Dad did. He called my work pretending to be me. He got me fired. I don't know what you're talking about. Her voice was flat, bored. You're always playing the victim, always making up stories to get attention. Mom, I'm in the hospital with a $50,000 bill and no insurance because Dad committed fraud. Drama, drama, drama. It's always something with you. And she hung up. I sat there in that hospital bed, in that room with 1,081 ceiling tiles, and felt something inside me crack. Not my heart this time. Something deeper. The last piece of hope that my parents were actually parents, and not monsters wearing parent masks. I called David, a friend from college who had gone to law school and now practiced in Denver. When I explained what happened, he was silent for a long moment. Alexander, that's identity theft. That's fraud. You need to file a police report immediately. But they're my parents. That doesn't make it legal. It makes it worse, actually. The betrayal of trust, the familial relationship, those are aggravating factors. But I have to warn you, proving it will take time. These cases move slowly. You need documentation, evidence, witnesses. I have the HR director as a witness. She'll confirm my father called. That's a start. File the report today. I'll help however I can. Julie visited again that afternoon, bringing actual food instead of the hospital tray of sadness they had served for lunch. She had brought a sandwich from my favorite deli, chips, and a chocolate chip cookie the size of my hand. As I ate, she sat quietly, just being there. Finally, she spoke. The client from your presentation called the office. I looked up. Mr. Harrison? Yeah. He wants to reschedule. He was really impressed with your pitch, said you clearly understood his brand vision. Gerald told him you quit to deal with personal issues. Gerald was my former boss, a middle-aged man who measured success in billable hours and viewed compassion as weakness. I had never liked him, but I had been good at my job, so we coexisted. That presentation was for a 6-figure contract, I said quietly. It would have meant a promotion for me. I know. Gerald lost the client to a competitor. He's furious. He's been telling anyone who'll listen that you're unreliable, that you abandoned the company during a critical time. He's spreading your name around the industry, Alexander. It's not good. The sandwich turned to ash in my mouth. My reputation was being destroyed while I lay in a hospital bed, and there was nothing I could do about it. My phone rang. David, Alexander, I did some digging after our call. It's worse than I thought. How can it possibly be worse? Your father also called your bank. He claimed you were incapacitated, and he needed to be added to your accounts temporarily to handle your affairs while you recovered. The bank, seeing that you were actually hospitalized at the address he provided, complied with what they thought was a legitimate family emergency request. I could not breathe. No. He didn't. He drained your savings account 2 days ago. $32,000, Alexander. It's gone. The heart monitor started beeping faster. A nurse rushed in, checked my vitals, gave me a concerned look. I waved her off, but she stayed nearby, watching. All of it? I whispered into the phone. Every cent. I'm so sorry. We can pursue this legally, but recovery is going to take months, maybe longer. And that's if we can prove it was unauthorized. which might be difficult since he was added to the account through what appeared to be proper channels. I hung up and stared at the ceiling tiles again. 1,081 squares. 1,081 pieces of a puzzle I could not solve. My parents had not just abandoned me. They had systematically destroyed my life. By day 5, I had filed a police report. Detective Walsh, a weary man in his 50s who looked like he had seen every kind of human cruelty imaginable, took my statement with a patience I appreciated. But his words were not encouraging. These family financial crimes are tough, son. Really tough. Juries don't like to convict parents for taking money from their kids. They think there's always more to the story, that it's a family dispute rather than real theft. And proving intent when someone has been added to an account, even fraudulently, is an uphill battle. So I'm just supposed to accept that they stole from me? I didn't say that. I'm telling you what you're up against. We'll investigate. We'll build a case. But I want you to have realistic expectations about the timeline and outcome. I thanked him and hung up feeling hollower than ever. I was set to be discharged the next day. Dr. Carson had done everything she could for me medically. But where was I going to go? How was I going to live? I had no job, no money, and a debt that would follow me for years. Then my phone exploded. 56 missed calls in the span of 2 hours. All from Thomas, Patricia, and Emma. Text after text, each one more urgent than the last. Thomas, we need you. Answer immediately. Patricia, this is urgent. Family emergency. Call now. Emma, stop being selfish. Dad's in trouble. Call. Another from Thomas. Your brother needs you. Stop ignoring us. Against every instinct screaming at me to throw my phone out the window, I called back. Thomas answered on the first ring. Finally. Where the hell have you been? In the hospital, Dad. Where you left me. We don't have time for your guilt trip right now. We have a real crisis. Marcus had a severe episode at home. He attacked Emma and destroyed half the living room. We had to call the police. My heart lurched. Is Marcus okay? Is he hurt? He's fine. He's being held for psychiatric evaluation. But social services got involved, and now they're threatening to remove him from our care permanently. They're saying we're not fit guardians. Where is he now? County psychiatric facility. They're keeping him for 72 hours minimum. Alexander, we need you to take temporary custody of Marcus, just for a few weeks while we sort this out with social services. If you don't, he goes into state care. The words hit me like a physical blow. Marcus in state care. My little brother, who needed routine and familiarity and people who understood him, thrown into a system that would see him as a case number. Why would they remove him from your care? Patricia's voice came through the phone now, suddenly sweet and pleading. You're the only one Marcus trusts, honey. Please, for your brother. We're begging you. That doesn't answer my question. Why are they removing him? Silence. Then Thomas again, and the sweetness was gone, replaced by the cold entitlement I knew too well. That's not important right now. What's important is Marcus needs you. Are you going to abandon your brother? Or are you going to step up for once in your life? Something hot and bitter rose in my throat. Step up? I'm in a hospital bed because of the stress you caused. I lost my job because you impersonated me. I'm broke because you stole my savings. And now you want me to step up? That money was payment for everything we've done for you over the years, Thomas said, his voice hard. Room, board, food, education. You think that was free? You think raising you was free? That was our investment being paid back. An investment. You see your son as an investment. Don't twist my words. The point is, you owe us. You owe this family. And right now, Marcus needs you. So stop whining about your problems and think about someone else for once. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. A video file. Against my better judgment, I opened it. The video showed Marcus in what used to be my parents' pristine living room. Furniture was overturned. A lamp was smashed, and Marcus was in the corner, rocking back and forth, crying, calling my name over and over. Alexander, Alexander, want Alexander. Tears burned my eyes. My baby brother. The one person in that family I actually loved. I'll think about it, I said. You'll think about it? Thomas's voice rose. Your brother is sitting in a facility scared out of his mind. And you'll think about it? Yes. I'll call you back tomorrow. I hung up before he could respond. Julie had arrived for her evening visit and had heard most of the conversation. She sat down heavily in the chair beside my bed. They want you to take your brother. Temporary custody, they said. And you believe that? After everything? No. But I believe Marcus needs me. Julie was quiet for a moment. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. My phone buzzed again. A text from the apartment complex where I lived. Late rent notice. I had missed this month's payment because my account was empty. Late fees were already piling up. Another text, this time from the pharmacy attached to the hospital. My discharge medications would cost $1,200 without insurance. Then another text from Thomas. There's something else you should know. We've been using Marcus's disability benefits to cover household expenses. If he goes into state care, we lose access to those funds. Social Services is already investigating us for benefit misuse. If you take him, the investigation goes away, and we can keep managing his benefits since you'd be family placement. Everyone wins. I read the text 3 times, each word sinking in like a stone. They did not want Marcus back because they loved him. They wanted the $1,700 per month that came with him, and they needed me to take him to make their legal problems disappear while they kept controlling his money. I thought about Marcus in that facility, scared and alone. I thought about my parents at their lake house, sipping wine and celebrating their drama-free day. I thought about Emma posting photos while her brother was having a medical emergency, and I thought about the choice in front of me. Take Marcus and drown under the weight of responsibility I could not afford, or leave him to the state and live with that guilt forever. There was no good choice. There was only the choice I could live with. I was discharged from the hospital the next morning with a bill for $49,000 that I had no ability to pay, a stack of prescriptions I could not afford, and a heart condition that would require ongoing monitoring I had no insurance to cover. The billing department set me up on a payment plan that assumed I had income. Collections would start in 30 days if I missed the first payment. I checked into a cheap motel on the outskirts of Denver, the kind of place that rented by the week and did not ask questions. $75 for 7 nights. The room smelled like cigarette smoke and broken dreams, and the bedspread had stains I tried not to think about. But it was shelter, and that was more than I might have soon. For 2 days I sat in that motel room trying to figure out what to do. I called every contact I had in the marketing industry. Gerald's poison had spread faster than I expected. People were polite but firm. No one was hiring. No one wanted to touch someone with a reputation for abandoning clients during critical projects. My professional network, built over 10 years, had been torched in 2 weeks. On the 3rd day, I went to see Marcus. The county psychiatric facility was a gray building that looked exactly like what it was, a place people ended up when everything else had failed. I signed in at the front desk, went through security, and was led to a common room where Marcus sat alone at a table, staring at his hands. He looked up when I entered, and his whole face transformed. Alexander, I hugged him, feeling how thin he had gotten, how he trembled in my arms. Hey buddy, I'm here. We sat together, and a social worker named Janet joined us. She was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes but a kind smile. She laid out the situation with a bluntness I appreciated. Marcus became violent when your mother yelled at him for spilling juice on her new couch. But this wasn't a sudden episode. We've been reviewing his records. He hasn't seen his regular therapist in 4 months. His medications haven't been filled consistently. There are signs of neglect that go back at least a year. Neglect, I repeated. Your parents canceled his therapy appointments. They stopped taking him to his support groups. His medication schedule was erratic at best. Marcus has complex needs, and they weren't being met. The violence was a symptom of much bigger problems. I looked at Marcus, who was now playing with a puzzle on the table, organizing the pieces by color with the intense focus that meant he was feeling safe enough to engage in his preferred activities. My parents had done this to him. They had taken his support systems away and then acted surprised when he struggled. What happens if I take custody? Janet pulled out a folder. Full legal guardianship. You'd be responsible for all his care, his medical needs, his therapy, his education. It's not temporary, Alexander. If you do this, you're committing to being his guardian long term. Your parents would have no legal say in his life anymore. And if I don't, Marcus goes into state care. We'll find him a group home placement. We'll do our best, but I won't lie to you. The system is overwhelmed. He'll be moved around. Stability will be hard to come by. And he'll wonder why his brother didn't want him. Marcus looked up at me with his big brown eyes. Stay with Alexander? My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Yeah, buddy. You're going to stay with me. Janet had the papers ready. I signed them that afternoon. Full legal guardianship of Marcus, effective immediately. My parents had to sign too, surrendering their rights. Thomas signed without reading, his face tight with anger. Patricia cried, but they were performative tears. Emma refused to even show up. As I left the facility with the papers in hand, Thomas caught up with me in the parking lot. We want the money back. The $32,000. That was for Marcus's care over the years. Then why was it in my personal savings account? Don't be smart. We spent it already on things for him. You owe us. I owe you nothing. And you'll be hearing from my lawyer about that theft. His face went red. You ungrateful little bastard. After everything we've done, you mean after everything you've taken? I'm done, Dad. Don't contact me again unless it's through my lawyer. I walked away and did not look back. The next day, I moved Marcus into a tiny 2-bedroom apartment in a rough neighborhood. It was all I could afford with the last of my credit card limits. $650 a month, first and last month's rent. No security deposit because the landlord, a gruff man named Pete, took one look at Marcus and me and just shook his head. I got a nephew with autism. I get it. Keep the place clean, pay on time. We won't have problems. The apartment was small and old, but it was ours. Marcus took the bedroom with the window overlooking the parking lot. He lined up his few belongings with careful precision, organizing them by size and color, creating order in the chaos. But the problems came fast. Marcus needed specialized care. He needed therapy 3 times a week at $80 per session. He needed medications that cost $300 a month. He needed a support worker to help him transition, another $400 a month. And he needed food, clothes, and all the basic necessities of life. I applied for disability benefits for Marcus, but Janet warned me it would take 60 to 90 days to process, maybe longer. In the meantime, his benefits were still going to my parents' account, and they were not about to voluntarily give up that money. Gerald's lawsuit arrived by certified mail. He was suing me personally for $75,000 in damages for breach of contract and lost business. The legal document was thick and full of accusations that painted me as unreliable, unprofessional, and deliberately sabotaging the firm. My credit cards were maxed. The hospital debt went to collections. They called 6 times a day. My credit score, once excellent, plummeted. My landlord received the first month's rent, but I had no idea how I would make next month's payment. I got a job at a warehouse, overnight stocking shifts, $11 an hour, no benefits. I worked from 11 at night until 7 in the morning, came home to get Marcus ready for his day program, slept for 3 hours, picked Marcus up, made dinner, helped him with his routines, and then started all over again. Julie visited often, bringing groceries and quiet company. She never asked for anything, never made me feel like a charity case. She just showed up, and that meant more than I could express. One evening, as Marcus played with his tablet and I sat at our tiny kitchen table buried in bills I could not pay, my phone buzzed. Thomas, give Marcus back. You can't handle this. You're drowning. Stop being stubborn and admit you can't do it. I'm not giving him back. You're going to fail. You're going to lose that apartment, lose your job, lose everything. And then what happens to Marcus? He ends up in state care anyway, but it'll be your fault instead of ours. Goodbye, Dad. I blocked his number. Then I blocked Patricia's, then Emma's. I did not need their voices in my head anymore. But 3 weeks into this new life, the certified letter arrived. Emma was suing me for emotional distress and defamation. $50,000. The claim stated that I had been spreading lies about the family online, destroying her reputation and causing her severe emotional harm. I had not posted anything online. I barely had time to breathe, let alone wage some social media campaign. But the lawsuit was real, and it required a response, which meant more lawyer fees I could not afford. I showed the papers to David over the phone, my hands shaking. "This is harassment," he said. "They're trying to drain any resources you might have left. They want you to fail so badly that you have to give Marcus back to them. That's the whole goal here, Alexander. Destroy you completely. Get Marcus back. Keep the benefit money flowing. How do I fight this? You show up to court, you defend yourself, and you hope the judge sees through it. But I have to be honest, even frivolous lawsuits cost money to defend. If you can't afford a lawyer, you'll be representing yourself against whatever attorney Emma hires with your parents' money." I sat in my dark apartment after that call, Marcus asleep in his room, the sound of his breathing the only thing keeping me tethered to hope. I had lost my career, my savings, my health, and my family. I was working a minimum wage job to support a brother who needed so much more than I could give. I had lawsuits piling up and debt that would take decades to pay off. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I let myself cry. Not quiet tears, but the kind of sobbing that comes from somewhere deep and primal, the kind that shakes your whole body and leaves you hollow. But then Marcus called out from his room. "Alexander? Okay?" I wiped my face and went to him. He was sitting up in bed, his expression worried. "I'm okay, buddy. Just tired." He patted the bed next to him. I sat down and he leaned his head against my shoulder. "Love, Alexander. Safe with Alexander." And just like that, I remembered why I was doing this. Not for my parents, not to prove anything, not even for revenge. For Marcus. Because he deserved someone who would choose him, protect him, love him without conditions. Love you too, buddy. Always. 3 weeks of caring for Marcus while working overnight shifts had me running on fumes. I was making $11 an hour, working 40 hours a week, which came to about $1,400 a month after taxes. The apartment was $650. Marcus's medications were $300. His therapy was $240 per week, so roughly $1,000 a month. I was already $1,150 in the hole every month, and that was before food, utilities, transportation, or any of the other endless expenses of life. Marcus was struggling too. The transition from our parents' house to this tiny apartment in a neighborhood where sirens wailed at all hours had been hard on him. He needed consistency, routine, and familiar surroundings. I was doing my best, but my best was not enough. He had frequent meltdowns, crying for hours about things I could not fix. His school called twice to report behavioral issues. He was not adjusting, and I did not know how to help him. I called social services to check on Marcus's disability benefits. The caseworker, a woman named Brenda who sounded as tired as I felt, delivered the news I had been dreading. The benefits are still going to the account registered to your parents. Transferring them requires a court order, and the court date isn't scheduled for another 60 days. After that, it'll take another 30 days to process the paperwork. So 3 months minimum? At least. I'm sorry, Mr. Alexander. The system moves slowly. Meanwhile, Thomas and Patricia were collecting $1,700 every month for a son they no longer cared for, while I went further into debt trying to keep him fed and safe. My phone buzzed with another text from Thomas. "You can't handle this. Give Marcus back. Stop being stubborn. We'll take him back and forget this whole mess. Just admit you were wrong." I deleted it without responding. My car broke down on the way home from my warehouse shift. The transmission gave out on I-25, and I barely managed to coast to the shoulder before the engine died completely. The tow truck driver quoted me $2,300 for the repair. "Or you can junk it," he offered. "I'll give you $300 for the parts." I took the $300. I could not afford the repair, and even if I could, I did not have $2,300 to spare. I relied on the bus after that, which meant my commute went from 20 minutes to an hour and a half each way. I was losing 3 hours a day to public transportation, 3 hours I could have been sleeping or spending with Marcus. Marcus had another severe meltdown at school. His teacher called me at work, her voice tight with stress. "Mr. Alexander." Marcus threw a chair during math class. He was screaming that the numbers were too loud. We had to clear the room. "He's been suspended for 3 days. Suspended. Which meant I had to miss work. Which meant I lost wages. Which meant I fell further behind on bills." The warehouse supervisor was not sympathetic. "This is your second write-up for attendance. One more, and you're done." My landlord, Pete, knocked on my door one evening. Marcus was in his room with his headphones on, watching his favorite show about trains for the 20th time. Pete looked uncomfortable. "Look, Alexander, I like you. I do. But I've had complaints about the noise. The guy downstairs says there's screaming and banging at all hours. Marcus has meltdowns. I'm doing everything I can. I know. I get it. But I got other tenants to think about. Just try to keep it down, okay? I don't want to have to do anything official." The threat was clear. Control Marcus or face eviction. That night, exhausted and desperate, I checked my phone and saw my social media mentions had exploded. Emma had ramped up her campaign. She was posting daily now, tearful videos about her abusive brother who had kidnapped their special needs brother and was keeping him in squalor. She posted old photos of me from Thanksgiving, photos where I looked tired or annoyed, and captioned them with lies about my temper and instability. Her follower count was growing. She had 15,000 people now, and they believed every word. Comments flooded in calling me a monster, demanding someone save Marcus from me. Some people found my work history and left reviews on my former company's pages, talking about how Gerald was right to fire me. Someone found my address and posted it publicly with a suggestion that someone should check on Marcus. I reported the posts. Instagram did nothing. The harassment was within their community guidelines, apparently. Then the death threats started arriving in my messages. "Kill yourself before someone does it for you. You don't deserve to breathe the same air as your brother. I hope you die slowly." I blocked users, deleted messages, tried to ignore it. But the damage was spreading. Emma was tagging my former employer, my old clients, anyone she could find connected to me. She was systematically destroying what little was left of my professional reputation, while playing the concerned sister to her growing audience. Julie came by with groceries and found me sitting in the dark, staring at my phone. She took one look at the screen, and her face went pale. "This is harassment, Alexander. This is beyond harassment. She's inciting violence against you." "I know. Have you reported this to the police?" They said it's a civil matter. Freedom of speech. She's not directly threatening me, just creating an environment where other people do. Julie sat down next to me. She mentioned she was leaving the firm, starting her own consulting business. She asked if I wanted to partner with her when I was ready. "You're leaving Gerald's firm?" "Already did. His toxic behavior has gotten worse since you left. He's blaming everyone for the lost client, creating a hostile environment, threatening people's jobs. I decided life was too short. I'm starting my own business." "That's great, Julie. Really, I want you to partner with me, when you're ready, when things stabilize. I know you're dealing with a lot right now, but I believe in your work. That presentation you gave before you collapsed, that was brilliant. That's the kind of talent I want in my business." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think there was a future where I was not drowning in debt and exhaustion and hate mail, but I could not see that far ahead. I could barely see to tomorrow. My phone rang. "David, Alexander, I found something. You need to sit down." "I'm already sitting." "While investigating the bank fraud, I subpoenaed some of your father's records, email, text messages, documents, and I found something you need to see." "What?" "Your father has been planning this for 6 months, since Thanksgiving. I have emails between him and your mother discussing teaching you a lesson. They wanted to break you, Alexander. They wanted you dependent and desperate so they could control you." My mouth went dry. "What are you talking about?" "Your father made anonymous complaints about you to Gerald. Multiple complaints over several months about you being unstable at work. He planted those seeds deliberately. He also called your biggest client, Mr. Harrison, pretending to be a concerned coworker. Told him you were dealing with personal issues that might affect your reliability. He sabotaged that presentation before you even gave it. He what? The Instagram posts? Those were planned. Your mother chose that specific day to go to the lake house because she knew you were scheduled for that presentation. They knew the stress would affect you. They were counting on it. When you ended up in the hospital, it was not a surprise to them, Alexander. It was the outcome they wanted. I felt like I was falling. The room spun. Everything I thought I understood about the last 2 months rearranged itself into a new, more horrifying pattern. Why? I whispered. Control. They wanted you broken down so they could build you back up as someone who obeyed them without question. Someone who would never challenge how they treated Marcus. But it backfired when you took custody of Marcus instead of crawling back to them. So now they're trying to finish the job. Destroy you completely, so you have to give Marcus back. What about Marcus? The episode that got him taken away. David was quiet for a moment. Patricia stopped giving him his medications 3 weeks before the incident. I found the pharmacy records. She let his prescriptions lapse, deliberately. She wanted him to have an episode. She needed the state to get involved so they'd have leverage over you. I thought I had been angry before. I thought I had understood betrayal. But this was something else entirely. This was calculated cruelty. This was a mother deliberately harming her disabled son to manipulate her other son. This was evil, wearing a mother's face. There's more, David said. I found the business plan. What business plan? They've been recording Marcus during his worst moments. Hours of footage, his meltdowns, his struggles, his most vulnerable times. They were planning to start a fake charity, Alexander. A foundation for autism awareness. They were going to use Marcus as the face of it, use that footage to generate sympathy donations. The consultant they hired projected they could raise 6 figures annually. That's why they needed Marcus back. You taking custody ruined a very profitable scheme. I looked at Marcus's closed door, at my brother who trusted me to keep him safe, and I realized my parents were not just neglectful or selfish, they were predators. They saw their own son as a revenue stream, a tool for financial gain. They had been willing to traumatize him, exploit him, parade his worst moments for profit. How do we stop them? My voice was ice. We build a case. We document everything. And we take them down. How long? Weeks. Maybe months. These cases take time. I don't have months, David. I have late rent notices and eviction threats and lawsuits piling up. I'm drowning here. I know. But this is how we win. This is how we protect Marcus permanently. We need to be patient. I hung up and sat in the dark, listening to Marcus's favorite train show playing on repeat through his bedroom door. Patient. They wanted me to be patient while my parents plotted and schemed and tried to destroy everything I was building. I pulled out my phone and looked at the text from Thomas. Give Marcus back. And for the first time since this started, I smiled. Because I finally understood the game they were playing. And I knew exactly how to play it better. I stopped running. I stopped defending. I started thinking 3 moves ahead like Thomas had been doing all along. The next morning, I called David and Detective Walsh together on a conference call. I laid out everything David had found. The emails, the business plan, the recordings of Marcus, the fake charity scheme. Walsh listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he let out a low whistle. This changes things. This is conspiracy to commit fraud on multiple levels. But I have to warn you again. Building a case this complex takes time. We're talking weeks, possibly months of investigation. I understand. But I need to survive that long. My parents are trying to destroy me financially and legally, so I'll give Marcus back. I can't last months like this. Julie spoke up from beside me. She had come over early to watch Marcus while I made the calls. What if we don't just defend? What if we go on offense? What do you mean? Walsh asked. Alexander's father thinks he's won. He thinks Alexander is beaten down and desperate. What if we let him keep thinking that? What if Alexander agrees to their terms, plays along, and in the process, gets them to incriminate themselves further? David caught on immediately. A sting operation. Exactly. They want a family meeting, right? They want Alexander to come crawling back, apologize, sign papers. Let him do it, but record everything. Get them talking about their plans, their schemes. People get cocky when they think they've won. They say things they shouldn't. Walsh was quiet for a moment. That could work. But Alexander, you'd have to wear a wire. You'd have to get them talking about specifics. And there's risk involved. If they figure out what you're doing, they won't, I said. They think I'm broken. They'll believe I'm giving up. This is not a decision to make lightly, Walsh warned. If something goes wrong, if they get violent or threatening, you could be in danger. I'm already in danger. I'm drowning in debt with a brother who depends on me. This is the only way I see to end this before they finish destroying me. We planned it carefully. I would call Thomas and agree to their terms. I would act defeated, desperate, willing to do anything to make the lawsuits go away. We would schedule a family meeting at their house. I would wear recording equipment provided by the police department. Walsh would be nearby with backup if needed. The goal was to get Thomas and Patricia on tape admitting to the fraud, the theft, the conspiracy, the planned exploitation of Marcus. Meanwhile, Julie's consulting business was gaining traction faster than expected. She had landed 3 small clients in her first month, and they were all pleased with her work. She brought me on as a contractor, paying me $25 an hour for marketing consultation work I could do from home during Marcus's therapy sessions. It was not enough to solve my financial crisis, but it was a lifeline that kept us from drowning completely. I used that small income to stabilize our situation just enough. I paid this month's rent. I bought Marcus new noise-canceling headphones that helped with his sensory overload. I hired a part-time support worker, a college student named Amy who studied special education and charged $15 an hour, far less than the agencies wanted. She came 3 afternoons a week and helped Marcus with his routines, giving me time to work for Julie and, more importantly, to plan my counterattack. Marcus was doing better with the consistency. His meltdowns decreased. His therapist reported he was making progress. His teacher called to say he had participated in class for the first time in weeks. These small victories kept me going. Rachel, the pro bono attorney from the victims' advocacy group, filed for an emergency hearing on Marcus's benefits. She presented evidence of my parents' fraud and argued that every day the benefits went to them was another day Marcus was being financially exploited. The judge, a stern woman named Martinez, agreed and issued a temporary order redirecting the benefits to my account pending the full hearing. It was not permanent, but it meant $1,700 a month starting immediately. With Julie's contractor work and Marcus's benefits, I could breathe for the first time in weeks. I quit the warehouse job. My supervisor did not seem surprised. I needed sleep more than I needed $11 an hour. Emma made her biggest mistake during this time. Emboldened by her growing social media following and convinced she was untouchable, she posted a video that crossed every line. In it, she mocked people with autism. She made cruel jokes about Marcus specifically, using footage from my parents' recordings showing him during a meltdown. She laughed at his distress. She called him names, and she posted it publicly to her 15,000 followers. The internet turned on her within hours. Disability advocates found the video and shared it everywhere. News outlets picked it up. Autism organizations condemned her. Her follower count did not just stop growing, it collapsed. She lost 10,000 followers in 2 days. The remaining 5,000 were mostly people hate-following her to watch the train wreck. Comments flooded in calling her cruel, heartless, a monster. People dug into her past posts and found inconsistencies in her stories about me. They started asking questions, defending me, demanding she take accountability. Emma tried to apologize, but it was too late. Her influencer career was finished, and the video itself became evidence for Rachel, who immediately filed new motions showing the exploitation of Marcus's image and the cruelty he had endured from our family. The pieces were falling into place, but I needed the final confrontation. I needed Thomas and Patricia on tape admitting to everything. I needed this to end. I called Thomas. He answered on the second ring. Alexander. Finally showing some sense. I can't do this anymore, Dad. You win. I'll sign whatever papers you want. I'll give Marcus back. I just want this to stop. He sounded surprised but pleased. I knew you'd come around eventually. You're not strong enough for this. You never were. Can we meet? At your house? I want to do this right. Family meeting. We can all talk through how this transition will work. When? This weekend. Saturday afternoon? Perfect. Your mother will want this on video, you know. For closure. For documentation. That's fine. I just want this to be over. It will be, son. It will be. You're making the right choice. I hung up and looked at Detective Walsh, who had been listening on speaker. He nodded. Saturday. We'll have everything ready. Julie squeezed my hand. Are you sure about this? I've never been more sure of anything. Saturday arrived cold and gray. I dressed Marcus in his favorite blue shirt with trains on it and explained where we were going. He was anxious about seeing Thomas and Patricia again, but I promised him he was safe with me. Amy agreed to come along and wait in the car with Marcus while I went inside. I did not want him anywhere near my parents, but I needed them to see him, to remember what they were willing to exploit. Detective Walsh fitted me with a wire, a tiny microphone hidden in my shirt button and a recorder in my belt. 2 officers would be parked down the street. Walsh himself would be in an unmarked car at the end of the block. If I said the code word enough, they would come in immediately. Julie hugged me before I left. You're the bravest person I know, or the stupidest. Brave. Definitely brave. Now go get them. I arrived at my parents' house at 2 o'clock exactly. The house looked the same as it always had. A nice suburban home with a perfect lawn and a 2-car garage. The image of middle-class success. Everything about it was a lie, just like the people inside. Thomas opened the door with a smile that did not reach his eyes. Alexander, come in. Let's settle this like a family. I walked inside, and what I found was not what I expected. Thomas and Patricia were there, but so were 2 men in expensive suits. Lawyers, clearly. And the papers spread out on the dining room table were not simple custody transfer documents. They were thick, legal contracts, restraining orders, custody demands. Emma sat on the couch, arms crossed, smiling like a cat with a cornered mouse. What is this? I asked. Thomas's smile widened. This is us taking back control. Sit down, Alexander. We have a lot to discuss. Saturday. The wire pressed against my chest, recording everything. We've prepared new documents for you to sign, one of the lawyers said. He was a man in his 50s with silver hair and a voice like gravel. These stipulate that you are unfit to care for Marcus due to mental instability and financial irresponsibility. You'll be surrendering custody immediately. I thought we were going to discuss the transition. Patricia laughed. It was not a kind sound. Oh, honey, there's no discussion. You're signing these papers today, or things get much worse for you. Worse how? Emma leaned forward. We've filed a restraining order against you. It was approved yesterday in Arapahoe County. You're not supposed to be within 500 feet of any of us, including Marcus, since he's still legally under our care pending the full custody hearing. My blood went cold. What? Thomas pushed a document across the table. There's a sheriff's deputy outside right now. If you don't sign these papers surrendering custody and dropping all complaints against us, we'll have you arrested for violating a restraining order you didn't even know about. You'll go to jail today, Alexander. And while you're locked up, we'll take Marcus back. You can't do this. That restraining order was based on lies. Prove it, Emma said. It's valid until you can challenge it in court, which takes weeks, months even. And good luck doing that from jail. The silver-haired lawyer spoke again. The restraining order was filed using sworn statements from your sister detailing threats you've made against the family. Whether those threats are real or not doesn't matter right now. What matters is a judge signed the order. It's legally enforceable, and you're currently in violation of it. I looked at my father's face, at the triumph there, at the cold calculation in his eyes. He had planned this perfectly. He had trapped me in a legal snare that would take months to escape. And in the meantime he would take Marcus back and continue exploiting him. You have 5 minutes to decide, Thomas said. Sign the papers, drop all complaints, give us Marcus back, or go to jail right now. Your choice. I sat there, looking at the papers, at my family's smug faces, at the lawyers who were enabling this cruelty for whatever hourly rate my parents were paying them. And then I smiled. I was really hoping you'd do something this stupid, I said. Thomas's expression faltered. What? I pulled out my phone and pressed play on the recording app I had been running since I walked in the door. Their voices played back. The threats, the illegal restraining order, the conspiracy to have me arrested on false grounds. That's inadmissible, the silver-haired lawyer said quickly. Colorado is a two-party consent state. You can't record us without our knowledge. You're right, I said. Which is why I'm not recording you. Detective Walsh is. I tapped my shirt button. Hello, Detective. Did you get all that? Through the wire, Walsh's voice came through clearly. Every word. We're coming in now. Thomas's face went white. Patricia made a small sound like a wounded animal. Emma jumped up from the couch, but there was nowhere to run. The front door opened and Detective Walsh entered with 2 uniformed officers. The lawyers were already grabbing their briefcases, heading for the door, wanting nothing to do with what was about to happen. Thomas Parker, Patricia Parker, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, identity theft, and making false statements to obtain a restraining order. Emma Parker, you're under arrest for filing a false police report and conspiracy to commit fraud. The next 30 minutes were chaos. Thomas shouted about his rights, demanding his lawyer, threatening Walsh with lawsuits. Patricia cried, real tears this time, begging me to make this stop, asking how I could do this to my own parents. Emma tried to run and made it as far as the backyard before an officer caught her. All 3 were handcuffed and read their Miranda rights while I stood there watching, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. Walsh pulled me aside while his officers processed the arrests. We got everything we needed. The conspiracy, the illegal restraining order, the threats, combined with the evidence David already gathered about the fraud and theft. We have a strong case. The DA will probably offer a plea deal, but if they don't take it, we're ready for trial. What happens to Marcus's benefits? The fake charity plan? All documented as evidence. They won't see a penny of his money again. And that charity scheme? Never happening. We've already notified the relevant authorities. I watched my parents being led to separate police cars. Thomas looked at me one last time, and there was no love there. No recognition of me as his son. Just hatred and disbelief that I had beaten him at his own game. Good. Let him hate me. I had stopped needing his love the moment I saw that Instagram post. The restraining order was immediately voided when Walsh presented the evidence to Judge Martinez. She was furious that her court had been used for such an obvious abuse of the legal system. She issued an order forbidding my parents from filing any further legal actions against me without court approval. Emma's social media accounts were subpoenaed as evidence. Every post, every video, every cruel comment became part of the public record. News outlets picked up the story. Local news ran a segment about the family who exploited their disabled son for profit and tried to destroy the brother who protected him. Emma's face was everywhere, and not in the way she had always dreamed. Gerald's lawsuit against me was dismissed within a week, once the full story came out. His firm's reputation took a hit for how they had treated me, and 3 more employees quit, citing his toxic management. I heard through mutual contacts that Gerald was asked to step down from his position. I felt no sympathy. The hospital debt was negotiated down significantly once I explained the circumstances and provided documentation of the identity theft. They reduced the balance to $18,000 and put me on a reasonable payment plan. It would take years to pay off, but it was manageable. Marcus's guardianship was made permanent with no opposition. My parents signed away their rights as part of a plea agreement. Thomas got 18 months in federal prison for the fraud and identity theft. Patricia got 12 months and 3 years supervised probation. Emma got probation, 500 hours of community service, and was ordered to issue public apologies retracting all her false statements about me. She was also permanently banned from posting any content about Marcus. All 3 were ordered to repay the stolen money with interest, $47,000 total. The court garnished their wages and seized assets to cover it. The lake house, purchased with Marcus's benefit money, was sold, and the proceeds went into a trust fund for his future care. The extended family reached out with apologies once they learned the truth. Aunt Carol was horrified. Uncle Frank offered to help however he could. My cousins sent messages of support. They had been lied to, manipulated by my parents' carefully constructed image, and now they wanted to make amends. I accepted their apologies but kept firm boundaries. Some relationships could be rebuilt, Others would never be the same, and that was okay. Julie's consulting firm thrived. We became full partners, splitting the business 50-50. That first big client, Mr. Harrison, from my collapsed presentation, reached out personally once he heard my story. He not only gave us his business, but referred us to 5 other companies. Within 6 months, we were profitable enough that I could afford to move Marcus and me into a better apartment in a safer neighborhood with a good school district. Marcus continued to improve. With consistent therapy, proper medication, and a stable home environment, he flourished. He made a friend at school, a kid named Tyler who liked trains as much as Marcus did. His teacher said he was participating more, smiling more, thriving in ways she had not seen before. Watching him grow and heal made every struggle worth it. Julie and I grew closer too. What started as a professional partnership became a deep friendship, and eventually, something more. She had been there through the worst of it, never wavering, never judging, always believing I would come through. When I finally asked her to dinner, a real date, she smiled and said, "It's about time." 6 months after my parents' sentencing, I received a letter forwarded from their prison. It was from Thomas. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was not an apology. It was 2 pages of justification and victim blaming. He wrote about how he had only been trying to teach me responsibility, how I had always been ungrateful, how I had torn the family apart by being stubborn. He claimed he was the real victim here, that I had manipulated the justice system against him. Even from prison, facing the consequences of his own actions, he could not take responsibility. He could not see what he had done wrong. I read it once, then threw it in the trash. I did not need his apology. I did not need his acknowledgement of the harm he caused. That would never come. Some people are so committed to their own narrative that they will go to their graves believing they were right, even as the walls close in around them. My closure did not come from him. It came from Marcus's progress, from the life I was building, from the family I was creating out of people who actually showed up when it mattered. On a warm Saturday afternoon in May, almost a year after I collapsed at work, I took Marcus to the park. Julie came with us, bringing a picnic lunch and a kite Marcus had been wanting to fly. We found a wide-open space with few people, and I taught Marcus how to hold the kite string, how to feel the wind, how to let it soar. He struggled at first, frustrated when the kite dipped and dove. But I stayed with him, guiding his hands, encouraging him to try again. And then the kite caught a strong gust and lifted high into the blue sky, string pulling taut, Marcus's face transforming with pure joy. "Flying, Alexander. It's flying. You did it, buddy. You did it." Julie snapped photos, capturing the moment, and when I looked at her, she was crying happy tears. This was our family now. Not perfect, not what I had planned, but real and earned and worth everything it took to build it. My phone buzzed. Another message from my father's prison account. I declined it without reading and put the phone away. I had better things to focus on, like teaching my brother to fly a kite, like planning a future with a woman who loved me enough to stand by me through hell, like living a life my parents tried to destroy but could not, because I was stronger than they ever gave me credit for. I thought about what I had learned through this nightmare. Family is not defined by blood or obligation. It is defined by who shows up when you are lying in a hospital bed scared and alone. It is defined by who brings you groceries when you cannot afford them and never mentions it again. It is defined by who believes in you when everyone else has written you off. Real strength is not about never falling down. It is about standing back up even when the people who should love you most are the ones who pushed you. It is about protecting the vulnerable, even when it costs you everything. It is about building something beautiful from ashes and broken pieces. Some people will never admit fault, never apologize, never change. My parents proved that. They sat in prison cells, still convinced they were the victims, still unable to see the pain they caused, and I had to accept that. I had to let go of the hope that they would one day understand, one day feel remorse, one day be the parents I needed them to be. Forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. I could release my anger without ever opening my door to them again. I could move forward without dragging their poison with me. I could build boundaries like steel walls and know that those boundaries were not cruel. They were necessary for survival. The best revenge is not revenge at all. It is living well despite everything they tried to take from you. It is thriving in the space where they expected you to crumble. It is proving that their cruelty could not break the essential truth of who you are. Marcus's kite soared higher, a bright red diamond against the blue sky. He laughed, a sound I had not heard enough of in his life, and I felt something settle in my chest. Peace. Real, earned, hard-won peace. Some battles you win not by destroying your enemy but by refusing to let them destroy you. And sometimes the family you choose, the one you build from scratch with people who actually show up, is worth more than the one you were born into ever was. I had won. Not because my parents were in prison, though justice felt good. Not because I had exposed their schemes, though truth mattered. I won the moment I chose Marcus over their manipulation. Everything after that was just making it official. Let me ask you something. Have you ever had to cut ties with toxic family members to protect yourself or someone you love? How did you find the strength to walk away from people who were supposed to care for you? Share your story in the comments. Your experience might help someone else who is struggling with a similar situation. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about real people overcoming impossible odds. And share this with anyone who needs to hear that they are not alone in their struggles with family betrayal. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is let others know that survival is possible, that healing is real, that we can build beautiful lives from broken beginnings. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that you are stronger than you know, that you deserve people who choose you, and that the family you build can be more powerful than the family you were born into. Take care of yourselves. Protect the people who need you, and never apologize for setting boundaries that keep you safe. Until next time, remember, you are worthy of love that does not hurt.